Hi there, I'm Thomas. Today I'm going to walk you through a full StorSafe experience. Everything from ordering through the IBM Cloud Catalog tile to deploying the service to running a real backup and restore. We'll start with a quick look at how customers size their StorSafe environment. I'll show you our simple sizing tool that helps you figure out the right configuration based on your data profile. From there, we'll step through the ordering flow, look at how backup and replication work, and then run a complete end-to-end demo. For this example, I'm working in a two-region setup, a StorSafe server in London, another in Dallas, and an IBM iSystem sending backups into London. StorSafe then replicates that data to Dallas, where we'll perform the restore, just to prove everything works exactly the way you expect. All right, let's get started. Before we deploy anything, I like to start with the StorSafe sizing tool. It helps us collect the right data points and recommend an initial configuration. When you log in, you'll see a simple form. Just enter your name, location, and, if you want, any optional contact details. Then we move into the sizing inputs. For this demo, I've pre-filled a sample environment, a 1 terabyte repository with about 400 gigabytes of daily change rate, and a single annual copy. Nothing complicated. Just enough data to show how the tool works. When we size StorSafe in the cloud, we keep things focused on a 1-year horizon. That's intentional. Cloud capacity is easy to expand, so there's no need to project 3 to 5 years out. Instead, we size what you need today, then adjust annually based on your real usage. It keeps the configuration right-sized without over-allocating resources or your budget. Next, the tool asks how you plan to use StorSafe: backup to cloud, disaster recovery, IBM I protection, and so on. The workload selection is important because it determines the expected deduplication ratio. For IBM I workloads, we typically assume a 20-to-1 dedupe ratio, though many customers see even better results. For AIX and Linux, the default is 15-to-1. These numbers help estimate both storage requirements and replication behavior. You'll also see a field asking what backup solution you're using today, and where your data would live if you weren't deploying StorSafe: object storage, block storage, or a hybrid. This gives us context for migration scenarios and expected data movement. You'll notice the dedupe ratio field automatically populates based on the workload you selected. And if you're running IBM Power, there's one more important choice: Power 9 or Power 10. The platform matters because CPU core requirements vary between generations. For this demo, we'll stay modern and select Power 10. Once we've confirmed that our entries are correct, we can click Submit. The tool emails a copy of the sizing request to the address you entered and to the FalconStor team, so we can validate the configuration with you or with your customer. Now that the request is submitted, let's take a look at the sizing results the calculator generates and walk through what each part means. Once the sizing request is submitted, you'll receive an email with the full results, just like what you see here. This information is important because it's exactly what you'll use to deploy the StorSafe solution. You'll notice the table at the bottom. It's formatted to line up perfectly with the seismic pricing and quoting tools. All you need to do is take these values and enter them into Seismic to generate the estimate. Everything matches column for column to make quoting quick and accurate. There are two main lines in the output, one for the L part itself, including compute, cores, memory, and block storage, and one for the StorSafe licensing and the amount of object storage required. Together, these give you the complete picture of what the environment will look like once deployed. Now that we've reviewed the results, let's move on to the actual deployment. Next, we'll jump into the IBM Cloud Catalog. In the search bar, just type FalconStor StorSafe or VTL, and the tile will appear. From here, you can choose the deployment model, on-premises if that's your environment, or Power VS for cloud. For this demo, we're deploying on Power VS. You'll also notice tiles for our deployable architecture and our new Habanero service. Once we open the Power VS tile, we start filling in the configuration fields using the values from the sizing calculator. First, choose where the schematics workspace should run, and then select the region where you want the StorSafe server deployed. Give the instance a name and enter the amount of memory that the sizing tool recommended. We assume your network is already set up, so you simply select the network you created for backups. Then enter the repository capacity from the sizing output. However, in this case, we moved from a higher performance tier to a lower cost one, which still fully meets the customer's SLA requirements while reducing overall expenses. In our example, the sizing tool recommended S1022, so we'll keep that. Then specify the number of virtual CPUs, in this case 2. Now let's open the optional values. In a typical deployment, you'll have one interface for backup traffic, one for replication, and a third for accessing cloud object storage. You can enter specific IP addresses if you prefer full control, or simply let the system assign them automatically. Before we actually kick off the deployment, I want to show you one more helpful resource that's built right into the IBM Cloud Catalog tile. When you open the StorSafe tile, you'll see a documentation section on the left side. That links directly to everything you need. The deployment guide is the main reference. It walks through the full setup process step by step. There's also README with additional links and shortcuts if you want a quick overview. Let me open both so you can see what they look like. The deployment guide goes into far more detail than I cover here, including network requirements, storage options, and region-specific considerations for Power VS. If you're deploying StorSafe on Power, this guide is your roadmap. You'll also see links to our deployable architecture workspace. If you choose that option, make sure to use the deployable architecture-specific deployment guide, since the workflow and automation steps are a bit different. All right, now that we've reviewed the documentation, let's move on to the actual deployment. Once the deployment completes, we can move over to the IBM Cloud Navigation menu to review the environment. From the main menu, go to Infrastructure, then select Power VS. That brings you into the workspace associated with your deployment. If you're not already inside the correct workspace, you'll see it listed here. Just click into it. Inside the workspace, open your GSI, and from there you can access your virtual appliances. In my case, the console has already dropped me onto this page, but normally you'd click through to reach the virtual appliance list. When we open the StorSafe virtual appliance, you'll see all the components we defined during deployment. The attached volumes, the repository storage, and the interfaces we set up for backup, replication, and object storage. One key step after deployment is connecting StorSafe to your cloud object storage account. I'll show that part in the Store Site Management portal in just a moment. For now, the most important thing on this screen is the IP address of the appliance. That's what we'll use to register StorSite with StorSafe. This instance is deployed in London as our primary, and I've also deployed a matching server in Dallas as the secondary. The layout is the same. The boot volume, the supporting volumes, and configuration repository coming from block storage. Once you've noted the IPs for each region, the next step is to log into the StorSite server. StorSite is deployed separately in VPC following the steps in the deployment guide. After it's up and running, we can access the StorSite interface and begin configuring the StorSafe servers we just deployed. Once the deployment is complete, the rest of the configuration happens in StorSite, FalconStor's management interface. From here, we go to Manage, and when you open a StorSafe server for the first time, you'll see its resources listed as unprepared. Each resource needs to be prepared before the appliance can operate. You do that by clicking the gear icon next to each line, selecting Prepare, and choosing the appropriate resource type. StorSafe uses several resource categories. One for the configuration repository, which holds metadata about the appliance. One for the deduplication repository, which includes both block storage and the object storage-based archive. And one for the tape database. You simply select each resource, choose its category, and reserve it. After all resources are prepared, you can go into the Settings tab. This is where you can change the host name, update IP addresses, or adjust other appliance-level parameters. On the left side, you'll see our two deployed StorSafe servers, London as the primary and Dallas as the replica, the DR site. At this point, we're fully enabled for backups. In a moment, I'll show how a backup is initiated and where you can verify replication. But before we do that, let's finish the configuration steps. Once StorSafe is deployed and prepared, the next task is creating a host client. This establishes the relationship between the IBM LPAR and the StorSafe server. You create the host client by giving it a name and selecting the iSCSI initiator, the IBM I side of the connection. On the IBM I, the administrator uses IBM Navigator to map that initiator to the target presented by StorSafe. The workflow is straightforward. Choose the StorSafe target, map it to the IBM I host, and save the configuration. After the host client is created, you assign a tape library to it, which makes that library visible to IBM I. You can also create virtual tapes at this stage. In this demo, we created 3 tapes with simple barcodes, but customers can choose any barcode scheme they prefer. With the StorSafe server set up, the host client created, and the tape library assigned, the customer experience from this point forward is exactly what they're used to. They run their backups from IBM I the same way they always have. StorSafe handles everything behind the scenes. Now that everything is configured, let's walk through the customer experience on IBM I. From this point forward, it looks and feels just like working with an on-premises tape library. Once an administrator logs in, they can use the same native IBM I commands they've always used. After a quick rescan, the virtual tape library we presented from StorSafe shows up right here, just like any physical library would. You'll see the library itself, along with the virtual tapes assigned to it. If I take option 9 to inventory the library, IBM I reads the barcodes and loads them into its catalog. Again, this is exactly what IBM I admins do today with physical tape. The workflow hasn't changed. StorSafe simply provides the virtual version of that hardware. For the demo, I'll run a simple backup command. I'm backing up a test library called QGPL to a virtual tape with the barcode or cartridge ID ending in 404. You'll notice the job starts immediately. From the IBM I perspective, there's no difference between this and writing to a physical cartridge. Behind the scenes, StorSafe is receiving the data, deduplicating it, and replicating it to the secondary site in Dallas. Although we're staying on the IBM I screen for the moment, replication is happening automatically in the background. For this small data set, the process completes quickly. Once replication finishes, the corresponding tape appears in the Dallas environment. In our setup, that tape is stored in the vault on the DR side. The tape labeled 404, our test backup, has now been fully replicated and is ready for restore operations. The final step we normally demonstrate is a restore from the Dallas server. We keep it simple. We compare the number of objects saved on the source side with the number restored at the target site, and they match exactly. It's a straightforward way to confirm end-to-end integrity. Now that the backup is completed on IBM I, here's what that looks like inside StorSite. You can see the tape appear in the activity view as soon as the write operation finishes. From there, the replication process runs automatically, and once it's complete, the tape shows up under both the virtual libraries and the vault. Here's the tape we just created, barcode 404. On the earlier screen, we saw that IBM wrote 462 objects to this tape. If I wanted to restore that data from the Dallas site, all I'd need to do is move this replicated tape into a library on the Dallas server and run the restore. The same applies whether you're restoring an entire library or just specific objects. Whatever was written to the tape is available for recovery. Even a full system save follows the same workflow. Once the backup exists on the virtual tape, you can restore it through the standard IBM restore procedures. If we walked through the restore on video, it would simply show the same commands IBM admins already use. Only now the tape lives in the Dallas library instead of a physical device. To show how simple the setup is inside StorSafe, let's walk through the steps for creating a virtual tape library and virtual tapes. This is the same workflow we use to establish the connection between the IBM part and the StorSafe server once everything is deployed. From the Manage menu, you can create a new virtual library. You choose the library type, enter any optional details like the barcode prefix, and select the LTO generation you want to emulate. You can also enable capacity on demand on the virtual media. That's really all there is to it. Once you click Create, the library is ready. Next, we create the tapes themselves. Just choose how many tapes you want. I'll create 5 for this example. And StorSafe generates them automatically with the appropriate barcodes. If replication is part of the configuration, the policy is already in place from the initial setup. At that point, all you do is add the newly created tapes to the policy so that anything written to them will be deduplicated and replicated according to the rules you defined. And that's it. The tapes are ready for use. The remaining steps take place on IBM The administrator inventories the new library, initializes the tapes the same way they would with physical media, and then begins running backups. From that point on, everything behaves just like their existing workflow. The only difference is that StorSafe is now handling the deduplication and replication automatically in the background. As the backup runs, you can monitor activity here in StorSafe. The data is deduplicated, replicated, and then the resulting tape appears in the vault on the target side. From here, the restore process is just as straightforward as the backup. You simply move the replicated tape into a library at the DR site, inventory it, and run the restore using the same IBM commands your team already knows. StorSafe handles the deduplication, the replication state, and all of the underlying storage work. So the recovery experience stays familiar, predictable, and easy to execute. And that's it. Backup, dedupe, replication, and recovery readiness wrapped up in one smooth workflow. Restores are just as easy. Move the tape to the DR library, inventory it, and run your usual IBM commands. StorSafe does the heavy lifting while you take the credit. If this walkthrough sparked ideas or questions, I'd love to show you more. FalconStor can give you a deeper, customized demo based on your environment. Just reach out at www.falconstor.com. Until then, stay resilient, and remember, well-protected data sleeps better at night.